Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the VCS and English Analyst Desk, where we are stepping into our second series of the day here between Cerberus and Team Flash, which is our, of course, the last game we have in our second round of games that we'll finish out here at least today. It's a bit of an interesting dichotomy between these two teams because last split, I mean, Team Flash was close to the bottom. They barely scraped out of just not being in last place. And Cerberus was, of course, the team that ended up beating GAM and taking over the reins of what was the VCS in a number of different positions. Because of what happened in the offseason between the loss of Ego and everything else, things have changed quite a bit between these two teams. What do you two gentlemen say?
Cerberus kind of disappoints me, right? I mean, they are the VCS Winter Split champion, and they came out of the gates with a different jungler and a different face to the whole team, I would say, because they looked absolutely lost. I mean, not even Artemis was working out greatly. I mean, in the lady phase of the first game, he was doing fine, I would say, but in both games, no priority on the Jinx. He was adamant at playing his weird stuff, which was like the Samira lane and the Lucian Yumi lane, if I remember correctly. And despite Ego missing and them having like a little bit of an excuse there, it was not just Ego. It was the whole team really not showing any identity and Garm just rolling over them slowly but surely.
I think I agree with you. It definitely wasn't just Fuquan is a terrible jungler and therefore they lost. I think he was fine. He's definitely not Ego, but he's fine. But I think we have to give them a little bit of slack, maybe give them another week or two, because let's be real, the team environment, I think it might be a bit of a disaster zone at the moment. You've got teammates coming out on social media and being like, yeah, I hate Ego. I hate playing with him. I don't think the team environment's in a great position. I'd give them a week or so to stabilize. Not great to be losing to potentially someone like Flash, though, because that, I think, is someone who you're ending up competing with in this split.
Which is, I think, worth talking about if we're going to actually dive a little bit more into the matchup, which is of interest to me. Because Team Flash had perhaps the best upset that we've seen so far and something that was unexpected, which is the win over Saigon Buffalo, which isn't even just like me simping for Saigon Buffalo the way that normally happens. It's just because that was unexpected because Team Flash, of course, they come in with a new roster. They had some nice looking players. We were like, okay, maybe this roster could have some noise. But to come out in week one with a victory that impressive or that kind of groundbreaking from what we expected. What was it that impressed you two the most about that one? Because obviously it had some kind of meaning to beat Saigon, who'd have themselves a pretty good C game so far and have been able to bring down Luxury in the meantime.
So the thing about that game against Saigon Buffalo is if not for one mistake in game one, that was a 2-0 for Saigon. It shouldn't necessarily have gone to 3 games. Flash got bailed out by a mistake in the first game. Kind of got smacked in. They kind of smacked Saigon in the second and then lost the third in a fairly close game. But that I don't think counts that much against Flash. Even if they had lost that series 2-1, I don't think it counts a huge amount against them. Saigon's a good team, particularly with the resurgent BJ. So honestly, I think Team Flash have got things together. They've worked out a roster and they seem to be playing well together. I'm excited to see what this team can do.
Yeah, and I'm just I wasn't too fond of Slater coming back because I haven't really seen him before, and he was just with the main change that Flash really brought to the table. Also Yoshido, now kind of officially role swapping, one would almost say, while playing mid lane, and he really didn't look bad at all. I mean, he was a strong top laner beforehand, we knew that, and Team Flash really beating a team with Saigon Buffalo, usually you could maybe argue that Saigon Buffalo is just bad, but you really cannot do that after seeing Saigon Buffalo beating Luxury. So and even aside from the C games, you know that Team Flash definitely had an impressive win over there. And yeah, today we will see if they can keep the track record going and maybe even get the second win.
Yeah, I'm actually, just to add into this, because I think it's worth mentioning, I think from the last week, somebody that really went under the radar, I know our desk talked about it, but Ikigai stepping in as a rookie jungler, I thought had a pretty good performance as well. Not super loud. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future, especially comparative to somebody like Dante, where we were like, okay, Dante had good moments. He had a lot of bad moments. We were mixed on whether we liked him or whether we didn't like him. But I think all of us can agree that Ikigai seemed like a decent upgrade over Dante in their first week of play. We'll need a larger sample size before we make that definitive claim. But talking about Cerberus a little bit more before we kick off into the series, because we're going to be approaching draft soon enough. They ran into a roadblock. Obviously, Ego's gone. Let's not talk about it too or dwell on this too heavily. But do you believe, without him in the lineup, that this roster with Fukwon in is capable of competing for a second lane finish? Because obviously, they would be favorites with Ego to be number 1, or at least favorites to be top 2. But without him, do you believe they are still even capable of taking that number 2 spot, Garrix?
I think it's hard. And I think it's hard because of where the deficit is in. I think if they had lost Pun or lost Yado, that's a huge blow. And it's definitely a huge blow. I'm not underselling those players. But the thing is that not having a great jungler in the VCS just means you don't make playoffs. The jungle pool in the VCS is so good that if you look at it, you gotta go, okay, well, Garm kind of beats them everywhere. But particularly Levi is going to cave in Fukwon's skull. Killer Queen, similar. Bean J, it's a bit similar, you know? You're already pushing them down the line just because he's going to get gapped a little bit in the jungle role just because it's so strong in Vietnam. I think it's going to be really hard. Look, maybe Fukwon levels up. I do really think that week 1 is not fair to judge them off, including this upcoming game, because I think the team environment's probably in shambles. And if they can get that together, I think they can improve. But competing for second, there's a lot of teams competing for second, and every series you lose, even this early in the split, is going to cost you.
There's definitely some tough competition for them, and I would definitely echo the statement characters. However, wouldn't mention Binche, but would rather mention Draktar as a competition in the jungle there. Yeah. That would maybe be tough for Fukwon, because Binche in winter wasn't really convincing me at all. And just gotta say, maybe Fukwon kind of lucks out because he would have winning lanes. But as we saw last week, I mean, Pan, he definitely looked off. Maybe it was just an off day. We will see today and in the later weeks if really the team can bring it back. And maybe with winning lanes, you can maybe beat the bottom tier teams, even if the jungler isn't as good. Fukwon himself didn't play terribly in his own right, I dare say. And I think they can definitely be a team that is good enough for playoffs, maybe even third place. But second place, it is a tough competition. I think if everything works out in their favor, second place is realistic for them, but otherwise, not so much.
I just want to jump in. I just want to clarify. Playoffs is top 6. It is summer. Oh, no, it's spring. What am I talking about? Ignore me. It's top 4. It's spring. I thought we were in summer. We didn't have a summer split. I got confused. Ignore me. Go to you, Rebel.
Yeah. So I guess in this regard, just discussing the remainder of this is we're going to inch a little bit closer to draft. It's going to be up here in just a second. I want to talk about the long-standing ramifications of what this match actually means, right? Is it more impactful that Cerberus take a win against Flash after Flash showed what they could against Saigon to prove themselves up there in the standings? Or is it more impactful for Flash to beat Cerberus at this point, despite their weaker roster? As you can see, draft is on board, so take this as far as you want.
I think Cerberus, at least having a good showing today, is something that we really need to see. I think if Flash would lose 2-0 to Cerberus, the reigning champions in their own right, even after week 1, I think it's something Flash could kind of get away with. But Cerberus definitely needs to show at least some signs of improvement. And likely even if it's just a 2-1 win, it may even be the minimum for them, because you cannot afford to start 0-2 in the split and not having played the arguable top teams only. And I think you need to show at least that you can take one game here.
Yeah. I'll keep it quick because I know draft is ongoing. I think being 1-1 at the end of the first week is something you can deal with mentally. Being 0-2 is very hard. So I think Cerberus needs to get this win. Flash obviously wants it, but I don't think it's a huge disaster if they lose. Bairn's coming in. Veigar taken out. And oh my god, look who's playing.
Not just 1, but 2. It's not just Paz.
I reckon Puddin will be in as well.
That maybe they're running their second team. Maybe they just don't think that Fukwon is capable. Not even capable. It's more of a comfort thing, right? They've been running this team through all of C games. Maybe they're just they just need to. Maybe this is the only roster that's got the synergy necessary to win this game outright.
The puppies are in.
I think in the vet we can was Queen of the Artemis, but I'm not too sure if I'm too familiar with the faces of the players. But the bot lane might just be the old one. Otherwise, it would just be the full beast. Which one would be more psychopathic though? Just running the full B team or running B team topside and still Artemis and 1OP? Because Artemis and 1OP, I think they are still like, if they get their stuff together, the possibly strongest bot lane of the league.
That's what I mean. I think it'd be crazy not to run Artemis.
Yeah.
This is a shock to see Poss and Jane in. Yado didn't have a great first series. God, Cerberus is in shambles. This is a worrying sign. Hey, maybe they come out and stomp Flash and then I look silly, but oh boy.
Yeah, to come out with a backup roster, right? To me, it just immediately shows that Cerberus needs time to try to figure out where their positioning is going to be. Poss, Book1, Jane, they've had their opportunity. I don't disagree. I actually think if you're going to pull this move, it might actually be necessary to put in Huber, depending on what kind of synergy exists between Book1 and Ron OP versus him and Huber. Just as like the mid jungle is always something you have to consider. But that's up for deliberation because we haven't seen the bot lanes quite yet as we're continuing on in this draft.
I think if you have to blow it all up, you better blow it up already, because then this new roster could maybe like find some synergy on. And I also like the sign that after the first series that they are trying something. It is something that is not in delusion that the week 1 was an okay performance for them. So maybe that's the right step for them. But otherwise, not playing Yado, not playing Pan is definitely a worrying sign, because on the A game we know how good they could be, and with these two players, of course with Foss we kind of know he also has a very high skill ceiling. With Jane, we haven't seen that much of him, and if he's up to the task against Yoshino, who in his own right is a very strong individual player, it could be a hard one for the side of Cerberus. If they are in shambles, is something we will likely see in the first 10 minutes of the game.
And something to note on the side of Team Flash, we are obviously talking about Cerberus. It is going to be Artemis and Ron OP, by the way. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yoshino has only played Rise.
Yes.
So that got banned away. He's picked up the Corki. So this is going to be something to look at. He is obviously a role swap player. Let's hope that he can actually play the mid laners, because of course Rise is a champion that has spent plenty of time up top.
Really quick, just to jump in on that point specifically, and I want to make sure that this is correct. I was going to correct you for a second, but I think your verbiage was correct in the fact that they played a single game here in their spring where they didn't have the Rise, which was the Galio, but it was so bad you could make an argument he didn't play the Galio, so I'm going to let the comments slide.
That's fair.
He didn't get to play the game against the Vex from Foggy, I think it was, and he got
solo
absolutely
killed
smashed
twice. Yeah.
And also smashed in the CS department by Froggy of all people. That's very impressive, gotta say.
I do want to point out.
Either way,
Sorry, go ahead. You finish your point and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, Artemis logs in Rebel's favorite champion with the Syndra, of course. So Jane, new player with the not so Wookiee friendly champion, I dare say, in both directions that goes, by the way. And now Cerberus, I don't see the cohesion with the draft, to be honest. I think it's a bit all over the place. They picked strong champions, but I don't see how they fit together that much.
That is going to be... I just want to point out, yesterday on Good Morning Vietnam, Marby literally said, bring in Poss and Jane and keep your bot lane. Just want to put it out there. We do have a prophet, but she decided not to be on desk today. Weird. Maybe you don't get credit for it because you're slacking.
Shouldn't have given you credit.
But anyway, looking at this comp, I agree. I think Cerberus's comp doesn't fit together super well. It's got good engage, like good go buttons. Over on the side of Team Flash, scaling. We like scaling. Corki Aphelios, right?
Yeah, Corki Aphelios combined with a Gnar also, especially into a comp that disengaging this isn't going to be the easiest thing. They have some kite back potential, I think, but ultimately I think Marcus could still do some work on the Gnar. I haven't actually seen the Gnar versus Graves matchup, which I think is okay for Gnar, because it's harder for the Graves to try to get on top of the minion Gnar to put in the damage like melee champions, where if they're on top, all of a sudden sticking power's there. But let's talk, I guess, holistically about this game, because obviously Cerberus has a new top side that they're working with, and you have the compositions to consider. So let me know what your thoughts are about this game as a total as we get closer to the start.
I'm not convinced by Service Judge, as I said before, and I think it is very hard to put the honors on the early game of the rookie mid laner to play up against Yoshino. Here, Yoshino is on the Corki, not that hard to play, I would say, even if he hasn't picked it up before. And I think that Flash has the edge here, because I think they can just scale finally into the game. It kind of relies on the bot lane smashing for the side of Artemis and 1OP, and now there's Slayer in the bot lane on the opposition side. He won't get smashed as hard as the bot lanes before would have been on the side of Team Flash. So I think Flash has game on.
There's also the question mark around Poss. He's only played about 4 games in the last split. The games we saw, one of them was atrocious, but the rest of them were pretty good. He's definitely a decent top laner, but Marcus has been picking his game up recently. So I think there's a lot of points of strength here for Flash. There's a lot of question marks for Cerberus, though.
Absolutely. I'm excited for the Marcus matchup. Also, I've had this discussion with a coach before about Corki versus Syndra. They disagreed. They said the Syndra was good into this matchup. I am looking forward to Yoshino stomping this so that I have my results-based analysis to base myself on. Gentlemen, have fun in this one. Let's hope it's an exciting one between Cerberus and Team Flash for game number 1.
All right. Let's go, Quincy. We'll have Rebel back before the next game. Don't worry, everyone. But for now, it is just going to be myself and Quincy bringing you all the action here on Summoner's Rift. And Quincy, can you guess what I'm about to ask you?
Yes, I can. You want to ask me where the junglers are pathing, where the early game plan is going for both these teams, and it will be bot side focus, as Mabi wished initially, and I haven't heard it, of course, but that was apparently what was said in the off, and she's sadly not here, but we'll see. Fook 1 going for the blue buff first, pathing towards bot side, and the same can be said about Ikigai starting on the red buff on the red side. So also bot lane focus on their regard, and of course you don't want to play strong side top side anymore, unless you have like Camille Trinome up the top side. Then it's a bit more likely that you want to go this route. But on Graves against Gnar, you can kind of leave them on an island and let them just farm next to each other. And I think especially Team Flash would be very happy with that. At Cerberus, they kind of have the honors that mid lane is going well. It's Syndra against Corki. Good matchup, I would say, at least in the laning phase, but you will get outscaled eventually. So I really want to see Jane maybe get at least a slight lead there. And of course, we will see if Artemis and 1OP can really smash this bottom matchup together with Fook 1, maybe helping them out a little bit.
Well, speaking of the bot lane, there is a little bit of lore in this matchup, because with Slater returning to the VCS, we suddenly have the Padawan taking on the Master, because Artemis was the benched player behind Slater for a long time. Slater was considered the best ADC in the league, competing with DivKid at the time, while Artemis was on the bench waiting for his chance. He finally got his chance, and oh boy, he took it. So now the Master returns to potentially put the Padawan back in his place.
It's top 10 anime revenge stories if Artemis smashes him again this time. So let's wait and see if that happens. And what I also just now saw was Jane absolutely smashing Yoshino in the trading department. Syndra, we may like or hate Syndra as a pick or something in between, which is the case for me, but you cannot really deny her early game strength. It is really oppressive. And Corki, not the best early game champion. I think he can farm somewhat safely. If he drops a few CS, he should be fine there. But Yoshino just now, that was a rough trade. And it definitely will hurt him. He might just need to use a TP earlier on to really stabilize in this matchup.
Had Ikigai to back him up there was potential for a cheeky play under tower there from Jane. But yeah, so far, as you said, I think he is going to have to go back, just use that TP very early on. Jane doing great stuff. Has used his entire mana bar, though. So it's going to be hard for him to contribute to this play. But it's actually Poss moving so early to try and get his jungler the crab, the double crab. Okay. They're just helping Fook.
Yeah, they're helping Fook. And I thought maybe Yoshino could do something there, because with him ironically being forced out early, he got to shop, so he would have at least an advantage in the item department. And also being back to full health and mana would maybe help him there. But Team Flash deciding against contesting that, maybe even a smart decision, because Syndra could just, with that little bit of mana she had, just let a devastating Scale of the Week and get an early kill there, or just secure the crab with the Force of Will, or do anything along those lines. So smarter Flash to not really fight this cuddle and just give it over to Fook 1, who is likely being pretty confident in this regard, because both his laners helping him out there and him having a good start against this Lee Sin. And
I'm kind of already liking what I'm seeing out of Cerberus, just even very, very early on, they actually made a play together. Rono P having to walk up towards Yoshino, who just Valkyries away. But we didn't see this last game. Last game, there were 5 headless chickens running around the rift on their own and getting slaughtered.
Getting slaughtered. I mean, it was just out farming and out killing them on the map while Cerberus just tried to do something and couldn't do anything. What was kind of even more brutal, if you put it this way, maybe. It was just a slow bleed out. I think it was like first blood at 15 minutes or something. We were kind of thinking we were watching LCK, but with one team being clearly ahead of the task, apart from the other. And we see in the mid lane, the farm lead is still there, but I wonder really if Jane can keep pressuring that and keep pressing it, because once items are coming in, you really need to cash in with the gold you get over the other mid laner. You can really make a difference there. And farming-wise, also the bot lane working out great for the side of Cerberus. So despite the question marks within the draft, they are playing this early game relatively well.
Yeah, they really are. Let's see if they can keep it up. As you said, Artemis, obviously a player that can do a whole hell of a lot, and on this Jinx definitely keeps up with the Aphelios as the game goes on. But as you alluded to, this mid lane matchup, we do need to see Jane really stomping it. A 10 CS lead is enough for now, but it does need to turn into some kills, into some pressure, perhaps into a dragon or a herald. But those are still a little bit away. We are just playing that farm game. Ooh, never mind.
Wow.
She nearly dies.
Yeah, that was very close of Jane just farming Yoshino there. And that's something that can happen in the Syndra against Koki matchup. And now, of course, Lee Sin is suffering for this because this mid-jungle duo is very oppressive in the early game. Syndra, Xin Zhao, I don't think you can have a much stronger one at the first few levels. And Lee Sin, of course, has to back off with his mid laner being forced away from the lane once again and starting to struggle here. I mean, Jane, he is a rookie, but at least he's a main mid laner for, I think, longer than a single month, which Yoshino kind of isn't, because he's very, very new to this still, despite having a good showing against second Buffalo. But on a new champ, I think maybe it was kind of the crutch for the side of Yoshino, as I get now interrupted.
A lovely hook goes onto Artemis, but it just doesn't matter. There's too much damage onto the Aphelios as Slater will fall. First blood claimed for the Jinx, and Cerberus are off to such a lovely start.
And we said one win condition for Cerberus is just smashing the bot lane, and that's apparently what they are just now doing. First, but also onto Artemis on the Jinx. I mean, it couldn't go better. I mean, oftentimes these first blood kills in the bot lane just go towards the ignite of the support, and then you cannot really do that much with it. And in this case, it just goes perfectly for them. Great dredge line.
What?
How did he own that? That looked so sick. That shouldn't have happened. I think I saw it just now for the second time. It just looked wrong.
Thresh apparently just doing a bit of a no thank you, goes straight through his hitbox and hits the ADC. Nort hook, never change. Or actually, please do change.
Yeah. And I can always understand the team Flash bot lane not flashing this, because they thought, just hits Fresh, he takes a good chunk of damage, but worst case he just flashed later, right? But no, you just instantly hit the Aphelios, and Aphelios is pretty paper against all the CC and damage that's coming in. So no chance there for Slater, and Artemis gets his first revenge kill, if we are so to say. And another thing I want to address, after flaming this draft so much, the scaling not looking too great for Cerberus, but if they are like ahead in the mid game with the Jinx especially, and also Grace is the one champion on the comp that really outscales the opposition here, so maybe there's a window for them even there. And Marcus, you don't get Mega in time, you will die.
And he certainly does, as Jane is gifted that kill. The Syndra scaling even further ahead as Fook will start up this Rift Herald as well. Cerberus in full control. This is looking like Winter Cerberus.
It's looking a bit like Winter Cerberus, ironically, because 60% of the roster has changed.
Package had to be burned.
Yeah, it's just the bot lane with 3 other players than the ones who actually won the championship, but they're still looking good. And this kind of brings to me the question, is Team Flash really that good? Because, I mean, this is a somewhat new roster that they are playing against. And Pause, I think he can survive against the Lee Sin. Get this cut it out a little bit more. If he's away from the turret, he can't draw aggro. But if the Sonic Wave lands, he's dead.
Ooh, it landed onto Fook, who should be able to trade this one back. No, never mind. Ikigai will get away as now Mark is bearing down. He hasn't even picked up the eye. God, if that had been one auto earlier, that would have been an absolute disaster. So Team Flash fire back with 2 rapid fire kills of their own.
Definitely, and that was just an overreach from the side of Cerberus. That Pause, I mean, he can somewhat fight the Lee Sin if he's away from the turret, but under the turret, there was really no way. He was maybe to some extent just greeting for the plating there, and then just getting caught in the way of it. With Fook, they were were also, just like you, expecting that they would trade one kill back, but sadly couldn't do so because that one wind pickups lightning was apparently missing. And he was just finishing the Rift Herald, wasn't really in time there to help. And he almost didn't pick up the eye, which would have been maybe done by Jane, but that was just an unnecessary risk done by Cerberus. They were very confident in what they can do because the early game was running so well for them, but now they just gave Team Flash some kills they shouldn't have given.
Yeah, they did. Perhaps a little bit of a rookie error, of course. Now that we're looking at a different Cerberus roster, we aren't looking at these veterans of the league. Cerberus we often talk about as these consummate professionals, these veterans, but 3 of their members... Oh, hang on. We'll have to come back to it as Ikigai has been caught out as Fook. Lands the wind becomes lightning. Does he have another E? He doesn't. But it's another crab for Fook. How can one take on a man who has manifested this much seafood?
I don't really know. Either way, not really great game for Ikigai, or for Ikigai, I would say, because he was kind of suffering still from what happens in the mid lane. By now, Jane, 20 CS ahead against the Corki, also 1 kill ahead because he got some good roaming earlier on, abusing the priority he had, and now with the Rift Herald, the turret will die, and I think Team Flash needs to run.
Yeah, but they do land the hook there onto Fook. So Slater's gifted that kill, the dredge line. Oh, sorry, the depth charge used. I'm surprised Slater felt the need to flash away there. They did have the numbers advantage, but he kept himself safe. But the tower has fallen, giving Artemis plenty of gold. Don't let that go off. Good.
It was Fook dying to the turret. This might cost him the dragon, but I think Slater actually need to flash there because it was both Artemis and Jane coming up. If one slow, one stun land there, there's a lot of damage also following up there from both of these carries. It is indeed better safe than sorry to flash this play. But the Drake going over to Team Flash because of Fook step, and this might cost greatly towards Cerberus because I think overall they still need to snowball this game a little bit, and giving away 5 minutes for potential Drake Soul stack win condition is not something that is the thing they are happy with. Here we see the replay again. Hook landing on towards Fook, and he is a tanky Shenzhao, can block projectiles, but yeah, when you are within the zone, you can just really bobble him up as the Lee Sin and the FAOs just now did, and the Shenzhao not that tanky yet.
Not quite. We've got a bit of a back and forth game on our hands, don't we, Quincy? Yoshino, he's having a terrible time. He's actually managing to keep the farm where it was, but he's not having a fun time.
Yeah, for him it's just a back and back game. He keeps getting clapped by the Cinder. And you see, that is one fast jinx, considering how fast you just melt the plates. Really already starting to go ahead in items as well, already on Kraken Slayer plus Circus, and maybe Yoshino even gets Dove. If one more spell lands, maybe there's an angle for Fook to go in, but no, there sadly isn't. And Yoshino is having a rough time. Maybe he can trade a little bit back once he finishes his Muramana, or just now he goes towards the boots, and he's a little bit on the garage, the item builder. This might just be what kind of costs him in the mid game, because the Corki, he will be kind of delayed. He's always getting very unfavorable trades and just keeps missing on some CS here, and especially Corki, like he needs to have these big CS numbers, and he also is forced to go the Hex Drinker, which of course more from a Mortius, not a terrible item. He would likely just sit on the Hex Drinker anyway, but Hex Drinker is that one thing that also delays the power spike of the shield bow, or in this case it will likely be the more mana poke build with the Luden's Tempest and also the Ravenous Hydra.
I'd certainly hope to see the Luden's Tempest. I don't want to see the shield bow, even though it might end up being necessary with the amount of focus that is being put onto Yoshino. Has gone the spellbook as well this game. No first strike to try and really buff up that poke. It's up towards the top lane he moves. He has the package. Can't have too much longer left on it though. Do we flame him for picking up the package 2.5 minutes before a dragon?
I think we should, yes. The package is like one way in for Team Flash to really win these Drake fights, and as long as Fook doesn't just die to a hook shortly before the Drake fight would happen, and then thus no Drake fight happening, I think Cerberus is in a great position to just contest these Drakes and take them themselves. They have a 1k gold lead, they have the Syndra ahead against the Corki, Artem is also ahead of Slater so far.
The turret falling.
Yoshino just dies.
He's just dead. Yeah, he is just in a lot of trouble. He uses his flash and his barrier. I guess it means that Artemis doesn't get the kill, but those are summoners that were never ever saving your life. As Team Flash try and trade it back into the mid lane, they should be able to get a fair bit of damage onto this tower. And if Jane is over aggressive, which he is, a kick into a flay, into a kill, well executed there by Ikigai.
Jane really wanted to give away this minion wave there. Was looking so juicy. Wanted to wave clear. Also didn't want to give over the turret, but I think they will fight over it anyway. Turret just barely surviving. This might just be huge for them, but I think with the next wave it will die anyway. And speaking of Yoshino, he did the same mistake as his co-worker in the mid lane, I dare say. He was also staying on the dead turret, just desperately trying to defend it. It was the first turret, so it was a little bit more understandable for him, but either way, you really shouldn't fight on dead turrets or dying turrets, and here we see it. Ikigai, great insect coming out for him. He at least has used the flash for it, so it's not completely off the charts for Jane, but Jane, you could have just dropped the wave.
You certainly could have. But hey, again, a little bit of a rookie stuff. This is Jane's only first or second outing. There's the Gravitum ultimate, but the Chompers do well. They could try and turn it back around as a rocket comes out. Arte going very low, gets a heal, gets a hook. As in goes Poss, gets the kill, gets Artemis excited. He bears down on Slater. The collateral damage will do the damage, and 2 have been picked up by Cerberus.
And here's just a little bit of an Artemis difference coming out, because he was also getting set up by the Gravitum ultimate coming out from Slater. He was also quick on the cleanse to really get away with it, and they knew they could fight it. They were really confident in it, because Artemis is still very ahead in items of the enemy AD carry. And him free-firing there after even eating the Failures ultimate was really the deal breaker here. Pan also teleporting in, and him picking up both kills means a lot for the side of Cerberus, because this grave scaling items is a very scary prospect. He's already on the hull breaker and might just be an unsolvable threat in the side lane. He's like this one scaling edge that even Cerberus has against Team Flash, despite their comp overall not scaling better than Team Flash ones.
Yeah, and a scaling threat in the hands of Artemis is definitely one to keep an eye on as we do head into this replay to see what happened in the mid lane.
Here we see the replay of what happened there. Again, Artemis, great cleanse on the Gravitum. Here, Dredgeline, Death Judge coming up from 1OP. They can focus down Arte with pretty much ease. There's no way to engage onto Artemis, and he just can free fire even onto Slater with this insane range of the rocket launcher. Double kill comes out for the side of Poss, and like this easy fight win for the side of Cerberus. They do, however, give over the second Drake, and I'm not sure if I should like that, because the positioning on it was far from ideal, but giving away 2 Drakes, even when the game is going out so greatly for you, is definitely not a good sign if you want to make quick deal out of Team Flash. I do, however, think maybe they just think this game fine, and that's why they give over the Drake. They are indeed ahead on Pass in the top lane on the Graves, and Artemis maybe he just thinks he's a better AD carry. He can carry these late game teamfights either way, even if they get outscaled. So maybe they are just fine.
Also, despite it being 12.2, Poss is sailing the 7 seas, and he's breaking some hulls.
Yeah, he indeed is. He's on Highbreaker, and he just now also goes towards the shield bow. So he will be a full tank Graves that still kills an AD carry within 3 hits. So he is in a very good position right now. Also ahead in CS against Marcus PVC. Likely also the gold, almost 1k ahead on the Gnar, definitely looking good for him. Surprisingly, Jane not that ahead of Yoshino, despite him absolutely smashing him in the laning phase, but also the AD carry difference very, very huge, and jungle being even is basically what we expected, and even if it wouldn't be the case, not really that much of a difference either way. Both are just bruisers that fulfill one purpose in these team fights, Lee Sin with the kick, Xinjiao with the crescent guard, and here we see Cerberus in this mid game definitely very much ahead, can just use the second herald for another charge and almost finish the tier 3 to it. Oh no!
Good job,
Charge
Ikigai.
gets smited. Yeah.
Well done. That's good awareness there from Ikigai, denying the damage onto the inhib tower. Stopping Cerberus snowballing this any harder. Although they do have this lead. Breaking both of the mid lane towers does give them so much freedom on the map, so much ease to move around, particularly with their Graves is just going to hang out in the side lane for a lot of this game. How do you see this one continuing to go on? Obviously, Flash, they have the scaling, they have a Corki, they have an Aphelios. But with a Jinx in the hands of Artemis, are you confident playing late game against that?
I think initially they were. Then they saw how Artemis is playing today, and then they were like, "Oh hell no!" I think maybe we also on our own need to go quick, considering the Drakes that were already picked up on the side of Team Flash. It is also a Hextech, so that will be very interesting for both teams. That is a very strong soul, very powerful considering the damage output it has, and also the first initial slow it provides is absolutely underrated in my opinion. It can really be a deal breaker to many situations where you can just chase the whole team away because you once get that soul proc off and then get old static shift basically back, but in a stronger version, and that just might be what changes the fate of this game. I think Cerberus is fine. Yes,
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not Vietnamese, but it must get pretty cold there. Or why else does Artemis feel the need for 2 cloaks? Please explain that to me as we watch Jane die.
I watched Jane die. Oh no. Either way, 2 cloaks. I have seen it earlier on Artemis, but I'm not quite sure what he's really going for. I think he just wants to have these DPS items like the Lord Dominic's, and maybe he just goes Lord Dominic's plus Collector, but Collector so late would also make no sense. I'm kind of dumbfounded, honestly. I think he just goes Lord Dominic's and Infinity Edge and just had maybe 1.2k gold and was feeling like, I'm just feeling lucky today or unlucky today and just want more crit chance. And now he's sitting on, I think it must be 70% already, and that's pretty far forward, but his war AD output should be a little bit lacking right now.
It is very interesting. He is looking like he's going towards that Lord Dominic's because he has just picked up that last Whisper. As Poss, he's getting forced back by Marcus by now, so he's not. I mean, I say forced back. I actually think if he wanted to, he could probably try and outmuscle this Gnar, but he doesn't know where the rest of the team is, so he doesn't want to overextend. It looks like Cerberus are very happy to play this one long.
Yeah, very much looks to be the case. I think they can also just use the Hullbreaker Graves in the side lane and maybe just have him as a threat there. Force 2 or maybe even 3 members from Team Flash going towards Poss, likely in the bot lane later on, and then just force Baron on your own and just rush it down and remove that Baron buff. Or otherwise, just play towards Soul on your own. Next Drake will spawn in 30 seconds. This maybe is out of interest for Cerberus. They will, as we just know, the established vision over there, maybe get a catch beforehand. And speaking of catches, there might just be it.
Yeah, it is Ikigai getting knocked up by the depth charge, but the follow-up, not quite there from Cerberus. They get a health bar lead, but it's on a jungler, and it's a jungler. They go take 1 camp and they're full health again. But Dragon,
and they actually use so many ultimates. They used 4 ultimates for that. I think it's actually not so much a beneficial trade for them. It's actually beneficial for Flash. Who's just
as Yoshino flies into the backside with the package, delivers it well. He will pay with his life, but now it's all on Artemis. The Jinx is firing, gets excited, tagged by Lee Sin-Q, has to respect it, but a good flash away from Ikigai there, but Slater moves on forward. He gets 1, but goes down to Artemis, who will survive on a sliver of health. He survives on absolutely nothing. And Fook1 now playing the tango with Ikigai, gives him the emote, gives him the wind becomes lightning, but it needs to be wind becomes death if they want to secure this dragon for free. No, never mind. Ikigai will give it to him.
And that was a sliver of HP away from Slayer, just absolutely killing everyone. That was very well coordinated by Cerberus to just kill him. However, I think they really shouldn't have taken this fight. I think against an equally skilled team, they would definitely lose this fight. Here we see it again. So many ultimates burnt by them before, and here we see the package engage coming from Yoshino. It deals a decent amount of damage. He almost dies to the unleashed power coming out from Jane, and here we see the extended skirmish coming out. Artemis can somewhat free fire. We see Slayer now feels confident to just go for the play. He is on Flamethrower, so he deals a lot of AoE damage and also on Gravitum. And here we see Artemis with a sliver of HP. If he just died there, it could just be very much bad luck for the side of Cerberus, and they barely win this fight. And managed to pick up the Drake because while Ikigai survived, it was Fook1 and also the cavalry of his team surviving, so they could force out Ikigai off the Drake pit and just claim the Drake themselves. I think that taking that fight was a very huge risk, and them winning that out was just pure muscle strength.
It was, it was so close. I'm liking that, Slater on that Aphelios, as you pointed out, was so close to hard carrying the fight. The battle between Master and Apprentice does continue, even if Apprentice does get the better of him in that one. This Jinx now 3 items completed, about 1,000 gold ahead of the Aphelios in terms of effective items.
Yeah, it is what Rebel said in our internal chat, that he just goes for the Kraken Slayer to maximize his DPS output and just combine it with the Phantom Dancer, which is also, if it ramps up, you get so much attack speed for it. And Jinx, of course, already is such a good ramping up AD carry because of her passive, which gives her a good truckload of attack speed anyway. And if Artemis can survive a few seconds in those fights, he can absolutely murder anyone. And we saw some taste of that just now in the last fight, where he could still focus out Slater just when Slater was feeling himself and going in for the fight. And Artemis really wants to press his lead, and this double quit clock style just went is now coming to fruition as he finishes that Phantom Dancer. And we see in the next fights maybe how much of a difference this Jinx can make, and that is even before she completes the Infinity Edge, which would be her next item.
We will find out. Aphelios is very, very close to his Infinity Edge as well. Has the long sword, sorry, the BF sword and the pickaxe already. Is managing to farm up as well. I think that should probably be him resetting to go grab it now. I imagine that's what that timing was. Someone we haven't really seen much out of so far is Marcus. He made a good play on the top side earlier on, but other than that, didn't have a huge impact in the team fight. How important is this to Team Flash's continued success?
I think him letting a Mega ultimate is basically all his job is in the later stage of the game. He is not really a champion that can do well against the Graves later on, especially with Graves going Halbig. I think the 1v1 is kind of doomed at some point. I think if you maybe kite it perfectly, there's like some off chance that he can actually threaten him, but usually you would expect the Mega to just maybe land a good flash ultimate and just get Artemis into a wall and do a lot of damage to him and just CC him for at least a few seconds or force his clans out so he can fall in this team fight, because otherwise I think Artemis now is very prone to just solo carry this game. And
Teleport's
coming out.
Why?
I don't know why. I think they wanted to
TP?
defend this tier 2 turret with this, but spending all teleport for it might just be a bit too much. They now lack this teleport in a potential Drake situation or potential Baron situation that could come up if Cerberus playing these next minutes out, and this is certainly where you would want to have the teleport, because otherwise I think it is just Cerberus getting objective after objective, or at least forcing you out slowly but surely on those, and TP for that one. It was a bit lackluster, to say the least. I think it was also for a mini now, right? So he couldn't really do much, even if he is already in close vicinity of the skirmish, if there happens to be one.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused about that one, but hey, it's all right. It will be back up eventually. 1 minute away from the Dragon, and both teams seem to have their eyes set on it. I think this one's important for Flash. I think they need to threaten the Soul if they want to be comfortable in this game. The fact of the matter is that on paper, this game going long is fine for Flash. They have a Corki and an Aphelios. They can scale. But I feel like from what we've seen, the execution out of Artemis is just a little bit too good to go against the late game Jinx.
Definitely so. I have the same feeling. Also, if Flash just give away this district uncontested, I think that they kind of really aren't really in it mentally, because they already have the package on Yoshino. He is also already on 2.5 items, so he is not too far off of being strong on the Corki. They can definitely do some damage there to the side of Cerberus, and if they just don't give this up, I think it will be very hard for them to really play the next minutes out, because you really would want to show some strength now and be in a position.
Gotta get going.
Where you can really contest those. Just right now, Poz is just soloing the Drake.
They have no idea.
Not even watching it. Yeah, it's just sneaked away. It's gone.
That's a very smart move by Cerberus. They make sure that Flash can see Fook 1, and Flash read that as, well, there's their jungler. We know what's going on. The jungler's here. But it's not the jungler taking the the Dragon. It's the top laner. Yoshino wastes the package. They don't even try and trade it for a Baron. And now it's going to be Cerberus starting the fight as a hook goes in onto Artie, followed up by the rocket. A huge Aphelios ult will turn Cerberus right around, Slater stopping a potential disaster.
Okay, and that looked to me like what Release Aphelios was doing with the Flamethrower Moonlit Vigils. Like, I remember that one play from FBI where he was like literally killing everyone on the enemy team, but he was the only one alive. And this maybe is an angle actually for Team Flash to start the Baron in their right, because they were just poked out everyone on the side of Cerberus. But Cerberus thinks differently.
Slater is dealing a hell of a lot of damage with this Aphelios. They go in. Marcus is the target. Meganar taken out of the fight, but Slater gets exploded. That's a disaster. And now it's Cerberus getting themselves Baron. Ikigai flies in, but he's only going to find a Nautilus. Poss will be zoning him out forever. Now, the smite is not up from Fook. They delay it well. Poss gets the kill, and Cerberus, I think, have just taken absolute control.
Yeah, I also like how Poss just now zoned him out with just the best you see in the world, yeah, Death. He just took the shotgun and just killed Ikigai, so he couldn't really contest it. And yeah, while the poke was landing, there was already the TPs used by the side of Cerberus to really get back into this fight with both Poss and Jane being full HP, full healthy there. And Flash tank up the Baron, also getting the resistances shredded by it. They were really an easy target for the side of Cerberus, and we saw it also just Slater was the hero in the last skirmish, but he was just getting blown up by the unleashed power from Jane, and it was just an easy pickup by Cerberus now. He will see the replay again. They are all back to full almost. I mean, 1 OP, kind of low, but he just does his job if he just lands one good hook. And that's all he needed to do. And he doesn't even manage to do so, but later on he just finds one onto Ikigai, or at least follows his flash out, forces Ikigai back in, and with this Ikigai is too close to Poss to really be able to stay healthy. He even tries to just land a Sonic Wave onto a white buff that might even not be there anymore to really save himself, and just now survives. But like this, Cerberus picks up the fight and also the Baron, and just now the game is clearly in their control.
Yeah, they're 8,000 gold ahead. They have an incredibly strong Jinx. They have Baron buffs galore. I don't know who stops Graves in the side lane either. And this is a great recovery after such a disastrous first series from Cerberus. Perhaps it was just Garm being too good, and now Marcus caught out the hook. Doesn't land, but this depth charge certainly will, as up he goes. There is a lantern to get to, but no retreat, no quarter, as he is taking down, and oh my god, Artemis is doing so much damage. He has access to the Super Mega Death Rocket, whips it in, and goodbye, Yoshino. That's a crashed plane. We'll see you on air traffic investigation next week.
Animal's having fun, I think. Now, 2 more kills for the side of Cerberus. We just saw how great the CC of Nautilus really is. Marcus couldn't even turn Megana in time because he couldn't really attack anything. He was just CC'd the whole time. One hook lands, he gets the staggering blow, he gets the dredge line into his face, and just gets ulted. And just now, this Baron buff is still on the side of Cerberus. They just end the game right here.
Yeah, Fook buying just space so that they can hit the towers. They pick up the kills, and now they'll go for the KDA players. Oh my god, Slater, do you even exist? As Artemis, that one felt personal as he goes in, makes sure he reminds Teacher who's on top now. As Artemis and Cerberus, with a new look, a new lineup, the rookies are here to play.
The rookies are definitely here to play, and I really wonder how Yado and Pan are currently feeling, because they might just not be feeling too good after their own big run, and seeing those rookies just come out and absolutely smash game 1. I mean, maybe absolutely smash is a bit of an exaggeration, but they definitely played very well.
For sure. Now, we will be going to a short little break. When we come back, we will have the illustrious, beautiful Rebel Fox with us once more to break down Cerberus's victory and get ready for Game 2 of a potential 3-game series. Don't go anywhere. We hope you are enjoying the show here on VCS English.
I'm not looking for words. I'm not running from hurt. I just want you by my side. In this moment in time, feels I'm crossing a line. I'm not looking to set things right. This tear I cry falls like healing rain, softly soothes my pain. This red my skin, and in the world of within, all I have is my love for you. If I conceal my fear, will I be in the clear? Or am I giving life to phantom pain? 'Cause it's playing out every note in the score. I surrender once more, but as my tears fall, they still kiss the feathers of a hummingbird in flight. Break it up into a million specks of light. Take the shape of an angel in the night. Carry you to peaceful fields. Grant me one wish. Send me one more kiss on the whispering wind. Like white horses running in the fields, something new begins. This tear I cry falls like healing rain, softly soothes my pain. This surrender, it feels like I'll kiss the feathers of a hummingbird in flight. Break it up into a million specks of light. Take the shape of an angel in the night. Carry you to peaceful fields. In your dreams of peaceful fields. In your dreams of peaceful fields.
The night beckons while you dream. A life never lives in peace. As you stand upon the edge, woven by a single thread,
Welcome back to the VCS Analyst Desk, ladies and gentlemen. It is a fantastic day for Cerberus fans everywhere as they find out that their team is not completely dead in the water and that there's some new talent here to be actually fostered within the puppies and the Cerberus organization. We can be happy about that. No longer are the days of Cerberus bringing in their entire substitute roster and throwing the entire split because of it. Thankfully, we don't have that to worry about here. Gentlemen, tell me about game one, because obviously I don't know where our expectations were supposed to land for our first game, but I don't know that this game played out to whatever those expectations were lacking to be.
Well, look, the fact of the matter is that Artemis is a demonic entity, and sometimes you have to give sacrifices to him. You have to. Pun has gone. He has fed the beast. Yardo has gone as well. They have both been sacrificed to the great evil that is Artemis, and look at the evidence. He's powered up. He's here to win.
Blood for the blood god.
Definitely is. Yeah, Artemis is a three-headed beast, basically, with now having consumed both Yardo and Pan. And we saw him unleashed just now on towards Slater, who didn't have that. I actually don't want to say that. I think Slater played fine. Aside from that one, not freshing that one hook, it was some very unfortunate thing. And also that one team where he nearly killed everyone on Cerberus. That's the thing. Slater played fine. Artemis just played better than Slater. And that was what made the difference here. And I gotta say, Jane, definitely a great debut for him in the VCS. I think, is it his first VCS game?
Yeah.
I mean, it is, right?
He might have played in that one series we meme about where they brought in the whole rookie roster. He might have played in that one. I'm not sure.
So it's his first actual VCS game.
That was a complete troll. So this was his first real game.
Yeah. And also that rookie in the top lane post also looking pretty fine, right?
Yeah,
he's all right.
the rookie boss in the top lane definitely looked like an experienced veteran up there. To toot the horn of Artemis just a little bit more, I remember you guys talking about the crit cloaks, and you guys mentioned, because I talked to you about this during the break, so we're going to bring it up now, which was just whether or not Artemis also has the largest brain in the entire league, because at the level he was at, with the items that he had purchased, with the runes that you typically take on a Jinx, he would have had less than an AD, but still slightly more AD than you would have with a BF sword in the inventory. We could talk all day about the variance and what effective output of damage is going to look like from 2 crit cloaks. But if you're just doing things theoretically, then you can just talk about the fact that he did actually do that. Whether that was big brain or goonery, I think is definitely up for debate. It's VCS, so we're going to lean to the side of goonery. But let's talk about Flash for a little bit, because Cerberus had games in a number of places that went pretty well. What went well for Flash this game? What do you think they could build on?
So I think that Flash overall were not that outclassed. I think Artemis had an absolute cracker of a performance. I think Slater played fine, as Quincy said. Like, did he get AD gapped? Yeah, a little bit, but only because Artemis went nuts. It wasn't because Slater played badly. Ikigai, I actually think, was the better jungler. I think he was better than Fuquan. He just couldn't do it all. I think what I'd like to see is something up in the top lane that can make Poss sort of have to engage with the game a little bit more. Don't let him have Graves. Don't let him sit in the side lane and just run the 1v1. Make him actually play the game. Give Marcus something that can win the lane. I think if you do that, we've got a good shot at a game 3.
And also one thing, maybe give Yoshino something where he just doesn't straight up hard lose the lane, because that was kind of the downfall of Ikigai, because he was getting smashed in the Koki Sunda matchup, had to constantly recall, and then Ikigai was losing pressure towards the Scuttle Crabs, towards overall his own jungle, basically. And Ikigai, as Carrick has not said, he was a better jungler. I would definitely agree with that. And if you just now have a more stable mid lane and also a less stable top lane on the side of Cerberus, you could definitely make something with that, because Ikigai played fine, Slater played fine. There's definitely some shining lights on the side of Team Flash, and they did not get outclassed in game 1. They certainly lost decisively, I would say. But Artemis, he constantly has very great games. But if he ever has a game as great as the last one, I'm not too sure. And if he doesn't, maybe it's enough for Team Flash to bounce back in game 2.
Yeah. When I first started casting here in the VCS, Drakthar was pretty young and only just stepping onto the roster, and I picked him out of basically a trash bin. And Ikigai was somebody that didn't get a bunch of attention before anything else. Anybody looking for a talent scout here in the VCS, please feel free to contact me, because I got plenty of time to be able to work.
Hey, where's Yashiro? he been picked up?
Silence, Milken.
We're kicking off the draft in game number 1 between Team Flash and Cerberus.
Game
Swap
two.
sides here. I actually agree. I think the most important point that was made between our analysts here when it comes to what needs to adapt for game number 2 was actually the Yoshino point. I feel like Yoshino's comfort is extremely important to Team Flash's success.
I agree. Yoshino, not a good game 1. Real bad game 1, in fact. He's not going to get the rise again. Cerberus, understand. Just don't give it to him. But hey, there are other top laners you can play mid.
They definitely are, and I really wonder where they are really going for. If they even early pick the mid laner for Yoshino, or if they put him on Galio again, which is something that might just be a bad idea, because I would expect Jane, he's a main mid laner, he should have a decent dex going on and could just maybe smash that matchup again, or just even go back towards the Syndra and just win the lane in face of that champion, because that's definitely possible against something like the Galio. Maybe even, I think Yoshino also played one Syndra game, it was not too terrible, or was it Harvey? I think it was Harvey, but I think that Yoshino, in spite of that, could have had great Syndra. Maybe even pick away the Syndra, which of course I think our host would definitely not like, but might be the way to go for him.
Or
You see what I see?
what the hell? Oh,
No Yoshino.
Yeah, no Yoshino. It's no-go.
That's a no-go.
That's a no-go.
That's harsh.
That's pretty harsh.
That's brutal, Stark.
And not
He had
even Yoshino
one
top.
bad game.
He had 2 bad games. He also got outclassed by Froggy on that Galio game. He had 2 bad games.
Oh,
But
okay,
either
I
way,
mean, in a row.
I feel bad for Yoshino because he's also part of our community, right? So
Yeah.
definitely feels bad on that regard. And Yoshino, I hate to say it, but he's probably still the better top laner outside of Team Flash if it is between him and Marcus. So but
We've got to
actually,
buy out one of these teams.
it would have been unfair to bench Marcus because Yoshino played bad mid lane, right? So it kind of makes sense in that sense.
True. On the other side, we do have Artemis once again getting access to his Jinx. So he could potentially just pop up, do it again. They are just running the same lineup, unsurprising. The Viego pick is interesting. That's going to be a very different look for Fook. He has to actually put the carry pants on, can't just charge in and press Crescent Guard anymore. That was banned away.
All right.
And
Quickly to jump in, because I get to have my halftime meme here. With this roster, right, you got essentially very, very young roster, Marcus, Ikigai, Nogo, and then Artie at the support role with Slater built around it. Do you know who Artie's laning partner was in VCSB? I'm not even going to let you answer. It was Yashiro! Bring him in and bring the rookie squad to fruition, please, Team Flash. This team could be so good if you had all rookie. Never mind. All right, go back.
so the draft is kind of run back at this point, right? Because Team Flash basically picked all the champions they also picked in the first game, just with a different mid laner as the player concerns are going. And there's one change, it's the Viego instead of the Shinjao. And I really want to see Ikigai making some noise in the jungle because Viego is not as strong as the Shinjao is in the early game. And Book 1, despite the win, has looked shaky in the early game overall, I would say. And definitely not the better jungler of those two. And sadly for Team Flash, Poss gets the Graves again. That is a very stable option for them. Poss, he has looked rough when he was getting camped. That was when his start in the VCS Winter Split, where he was like 0-5 on Renekton and couldn't do anything all game, where he was quickly benched again. So I'm not too sure if Flash really has an answer against that. Looks like Jace will be their answer, and it has kind of worked in the first series, where at least Secret against Garm, that was like the one strong point they had, that at least the Jace was better than the enemy Graves. And now I really want to see what Nogo can play in the mid lane, because a lot of mid laners have been banned away already.
They're forcing him to blind pick as well. I like this from Cerberus. Make him blind. Give Jane the counter.
Yeah, Syndra already banned away, so you cannot just go Syndra into Corki again. What would be
Sona?
up now is like Victor, you could play Orianna, Sona also, of course, or Ivan mid lane, huh?
Good.
Or anything that they
Confession?
probably practice.
Church doesn't start till tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. Either way, it will likely be Victor, I think, is what I want to see here, because it's just a stable option against Corki. But Oriana, my other pick of choice here, also a decent option. Also, ball delivery kind of decent with both Nautilus and Viego, ironically. You can put the ball into the Viego, give him movement speed, give him a shield, and then just prevent Viego from getting blown up. And Viego himself actually kind of enjoys having that luxury around him, and can be a bane of the existence for the side of Team Flash. Also, it kind of one of the damage split really well. Oriana, heavy magic damage, and the other carries on the side of Team Cerberus are very heavy toward the AD, so you kind of run out the draft nicely with this Oriana pick.
That said, I do think Team Flash have assembled a really good draft.
Are they still to swap champions though?
Yeah, they haven't swapped back.
I think I'm going to say that's a bug.
It's either
I'm
a
going
bug
to
or
say
it's
that's a bug.
a timer that is about to take way too long here before the game starts. So let's wait before we get comfortable, because this is not the first time that something like this would have happened.
Yeah, look, the VCS,
like fresh.
the VCS we have traded. We made a deal with the devil. We've got great mechanics. VCS, some of the best mechanics in the world. Once the rift loads, the champ select mechanic. Look, I'm just saying, we won a tournament against the PCS purely by having terrible champ selects. It's an impressive feat. But yeah, as I was saying, I think I like the composition they put together. It's a good poke comp. They've got Jace, Corki, and Aphelios. It's really hard to engage onto that. The Jace and the Corki can put so much damage out at range, and if you run into them, Aphelios loves that.
It's a curiosity of mine in this composition specifically, which is that eventually you get to a point where the Jace poke, the Corki poke, things really start to come together. You put an Aphelios into it, and all of a sudden the team fight's looking great from a very long distance. And they have ways of aggressing in the early game with like Ikigai and being able to kind of facilitate with Ikigai and Thresh. For Ikigai and Artie, obviously those two champions also had really successful game ones. But the laning phase was where they lost out in the previous game, which I think is something excruciatingly important to point out. So my question to both of you: early game, do things change now that we have no-go in the mid lane, but also given what we've seen now about the compositional difference from the side of Cerberus?
Tough question, I would say, because we haven't really seen no-go much, right? And I'm not sure if he even is an upgrade over Yoshino or the Yoshino we just saw just now. Flash, of course, thinks that he is, and even if he isn't, I mean, Corki against Oriana is not that brutal of a matchup as Corki versus Syndra would be, so maybe that alone is maybe stabilizing it alone for the side of Team Flash, and looks like... I think that the swap is actually causing an issue with the game right now, because BetTV is taking that damn time right now, considering what starting the game is. They probably have to redo the draft off screen. Either way, I think... composition-wise, definitely something where Team Flash adapted well, but if it's enough remains to be seen, because they kind of got individually outshined last game, and with a new mid laner coming in, it's not looking easy again.
It's true. Rebel, you've got extra time to talk, because we don't have to say goodbye to you. So what are you thinking so far? What do you think Cerberus is back? Do you think this is the best lineup for them?
First off, let's talk about POS, because I think that's important. Our first game that we came back. Okay, well, we're right back at. Oh my goodness, look at the number of things going wrong. There's no mid laner. The timer's at 71 seconds.
Yeah, it's because it's just blind pick. They've just loaded into a blind pick lobby to get into the game. It's
as fast as possible. That's pretty nice. So yeah, it's.
I don't know why we're seeing
it. Simply because that's reasonable. But yeah, for POS to have the performance that he had in that first game, I think was better than anything we had really seen from the previous split, which is quite nice. And especially because basically all of Cerberus's composition had played together, or at least the top side had played together. It's interesting just because the only real substitution that was made from their other squad, from the Puppy squad, were Fuquan and Jane, which is necessary in the jungle position. But to bring in POS as a confidence pick over Pun is really big. And I think that this is a substitution that's necessary because they don't have to put as much carry potential into Jane if Jane is around. So that, it's more of they shift from Yato, who might need some attention, to now, you put more of the carry potential into POS, and maybe he can do a bit more of the heavy lifting than what Pun can do.
What do you think, Quincy? What are you thinking about lineups?
I think lineup-wise, I think we shouldn't overreact too much. Even if Jane just now even smashes the second game as well, I don't think Yado is like jobless after that. I think it's not as easy as that. I think they still practice with both swords behind the scenes, hopefully so. But I definitely think Jane is making great arguments for himself, and Yado just didn't do that as far as this first series goes. I mean, with Yado, the thing is, he was absolutely a carry in playoffs for Cerberus recently as well, and he just had one bad day so far, is what we know, and I think even with Jane playing today, we shouldn't really overreact and think that the case is done.
All right, have fun, gents. I'll be back after this game is done for some more analyst desk.
That you will. Don't go anywhere, but Jane, king of mid lane, or will no-go get in the way? After game one, I would be very hesitant about approaching Jane. Of course, he's on a very different champion this time, the Oriana, rather than the Syndra. What do you think about then letting Poss have Graves again? I hate it. I don't like that he's gotten it twice.
I hate it in the sense that I think they shouldn't have done it. I like it in the way that Team Flash should absolutely lose this game because they forgot to swap and they really are wasting my time and really triggering me on a personal level. But other than that, yeah, I think Poss shouldn't have had Graves again. I think that's just way too much comfort for him. He just showed in one game that he's definitely decent on it, and so far, I mean, we saw 4 games on him for Cerberus. I think there was this terrible reacting game, a few other not so good games. I think it were on Mundo, and I think one okayish game on Cannon he played where they even won the game. That's a rare sight for them with Poss in general. And him just getting the Graves again, it will be a very boring matchup in the top lane overall. I think that just makes it too easy for him.
Yeah, I completely agree. Would have liked to see Marcus actually take it to him rather than just play a very quiet lane. Rono P is in push. Yeah, fighting into a Nautilus level 1, I always think is a little bit risky, particularly when you're an Aphelios and don't have an ability.
Yeah, Aphelios not the greatest level 1 champion, and Fresh to some extent not either. I mean, he is not bad level 1 per se, but he's just stat-wise not really getting ahead of the Nautilus. Level 2 for
level 2. One more. No. Oh, yes, it is. The Ignite will do the damage. I thought Artemis missed his chance with the flash forward, but no. First Blood will go over to Cerberus.
First, they forgot to swap. Now they forgot to respect the level 2 power spike coming out for Artemis and 1OP. What a terrible misfortune for the side of Team Flash bot lane. And this time, at least, it's not Artemis with the first kill. It is indeed 1OP with the Ignite. It kind of was a foreshadowing what I said in the game earlier, right? It was like mostly those support Ignites tend to steal the kill for the first blood. This time, that's exactly what happens. And 1OP this time gets the fat cash in, of course, for support in the early game. Not as bad anyway, because you really want to get a good power spike on the support item, get the first stuff going on, but you still, of course, would rather have it on Artemis and his Jinx. He, of course, is still fine with getting a little bit of gold there for the assist, but could have been even better for the side of Cerberus. And again, not a great start for Team Flash. And with top lane being a kind of stable matchup, and mid lane being the new player, not looking too good for them. And I really do not envy Ikigai right now, because he really has to do an absolute 1v9 job to really turn this game around.
He certainly does. He has a lot on his shoulders, as the worst person to give an early lead to is Artemis. Yeah, he didn't get the kill, but he did get a lead nonetheless. And that is an absolute nightmare. The man has been a menace to many, many teams here in Vietnam. Toronto P actually steps out of lane. They're just going to try and really stop Ikigai. They're just going to give the crab over to Artemis to make sure that there is no delicious seafood for this Lee Sin.
And Nautilus is really good at doing this, because he could just auto-attack, and that staggering blow alone is enough CC to just break the shield from the Scuttle Crab, so they can clear the Scuttle Crab surprisingly quickly. Of course, don't get the bonus XP bonus code that the jungler would get from it, but it's just for the sake of shutting down Ikigai, and so far they have managed to do so. Viego is not strong early, but he is kind of good at power farming his jungle, and so far he just did the same as Lee Sin did, but a bit faster. And of course, Fukwon is more than fine with that. He's already level 4, and
flash forward by Marcus.
Yeah, it's flash for nothing. Both are low on mana and HP, so it doesn't really favor him much.
What? Did he just not look at his mana? He had nothing. Ikigai is coming up. The Sonic Wave doesn't land. They can't dive. Oh, because now Fook 1's coming. Poss has fleet footwork. He does manage to dash away to the ward, so just a flash for nothing.
I would understand if it this can like freeze the wave, deny some minions out of pause there and just force it back or something, but not even that is happening. He just now can just easily take away this wave and then just have a recall, just chop, and then just TP back to lane or just walk back to lane. I think TPing is the correct choice here because that's what the opposition did, and otherwise Marcus would just chop the next wave in. But it's just a flash wasted basically. If the dive was like realistic to work, I would also understand it, but that was just not happening. No wave crashing the turret to really help Ikigai there, and as soon as Sonic Wave was not even sidestep but could just be quick to out by the side of pause, it was just very safe, and he almost even baited Ikigai into a 1v2 there where Ikigai would fall, so not really the smartest play there from Marcus.
Yeah, I felt like if he'd had mana, maybe he goes forward, but let's move on. Let's have a look into this mid lane where Jane once again has got a CS lead over a Corki.
Yeah, that's something that might just be a bit underrated by us before in the draft. It is not a Syndra, it isn't Orianna, but even Orianna also outranges the Corki a little bit, can just use the command attack to even harass the Corki down, and it's not as impressive as the Syndra, but it can still be very impressive if the Orianna is the better player than the Corki is. And this may just be what we see here.
It's an early game skirmish in the bottom lane as Fukwang will get the first kill. He inhabits the soul of the Thresh. Ooh, maybe needs to practice that one a little bit, as that was a bit of an ugly hook, but it doesn't matter because the kill was secured.
Yeah, kill was secured. Good way to play it with the Nautilus. 3-3, surprisingly favoring the Vigo side because they can get the takedown early. Vigo gets the reset going on, gets the invulnerability for a few seconds, and like this, there's not really fighting back for the side of Team Flash. And here we see again, Servo is just now snowballing through the bot lane. In CS, it's actually even between Slade and Artemis, which is kind of impressive because we saw Artie dying to the 2v2 earlier on. Artie missing the hook.
Oh,
he could just ult defensively. Yeah. It's just a poor man's flash, right? Not that high of a cooldown. You usually want to use it for the damage, but here you just use it to escape. And here 3v3. Also, Fukwang's sweepering, so he's very sure that he can just pull off the lane gig and it's not spotted. And as he sees the Herald Path coming in, all the CC landing, Fresh dying pretty quickly there, and with the stasis, or with the invulnerability rather, you could just easily clear up that kill and get away safely. Now we see Pause now down his ultimate, would need to flash if he gets caught out here, or maybe even die anyway.
Quick draw, he flashes. Artie tried to predict it, didn't quite send it far enough off to the right. But Pos finally actually has to spend a cooldown.
Flash used, but now they left Slater alone in the bot lane, and Slater might just get zoned away from the wave, or maybe even annoyed even as early as the Quack camp where he's already sitting. And now Artemis gets some free time on the turret plates, and that is not what you want to give Artemis, right? We saw game 1, we saw even some taste of it even in this game already with the 2v2 kill they had, and Artemis getting free turret plates is something that Team Flash really should think twice about. And Slater might even just get both here straight up. He does have the Crescendo, but he doesn't have the Cerebrum, so he's actually somewhat diveable, but Artie is back in lane, so I think Slater's safe.
Yeah, he should be okay. He actually gets a fair bit of damage in onto Artemis.
Okay.
No damage to lock him down as Artie flashes forward, and Artemis has to respect it.
I had to respect it. The flash hook coming out. If that hook lands, he's just dead. And Slater's damage was kind of surprising me. Maybe he isn't that diveable after all. Of course, if you see him, he cannot really return the damage, so there might just be some chance that he would just in a dive get blown up immediately. But here with Artie being back, of course, Slater was safe. And can return the farm. I don't know what Artemis tried to steal there. Maybe red buff potentially, because he thought Ikigai was just doing it. And he wasn't too far off, I think. This play looks dumber than it actually was.
Yeah. And looking now, from the top side, Marcus has actually built up a bit of a CS lead. There has been a lot of attention towards the top side, so it's not too crazy. Where do we... Pulse moving in. Doing a lot of damage here. Marcus whacks him away with the hammer.
And the longer this goes, it should even more favor the Graves. He's already on the plated seal caps. He's already going towards the lifesteal route. And as soon as he has like the Hullbreaker, the Immortal Shield Bow, I think Marcus will not really have any say in this matchup because he's not really creating a lead here. Of course, he's some CS ahead due to the gank that happened earlier, and then Pause being forced out a little bit. But overall, I think this what happened in the first series with like I think it was Hero solo killing Kiaya there. This was just Kiaya being not really careful enough and dumping that in an isolated situation should never happen between those two champions. I think Waves should just be too tanky for the Jace to handle at some point of the game. And this time, some adaptation by Artemis. He's already going for the Gale Force, already completed the Gale Force especially, and not for the Kraken Slayer as last game. Maybe he just feared this time that
Dive
he needs
coming
to
on in. As there's the first kill onto Artie. That gives Fuquan a reset. He misses the flay, but he doesn't miss the Heartbreaker. Once again, dives in, but he's actually going to die. As Aphelios kills Aphelios. Trust no one, Crincy, not even yourself. Always funny there. But it should be the first tower picked up for Cerberus, but he's going to be answered back pretty quickly by Team Flash, at least with some plays.
There's probably some suicide joke here, but I'm not going to say it.
Let's not do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Icky Guy! Sending Jane to his doom. Never mind, there's no follow-up.
Yeah, good turret play taking there by the side of Team Flash with the Rift Herald charge, but on the bot then we saw again how good Viego is at turret diving once he's at least somewhat ahead, because he can just use the stasis to just reset the turret echo. Ultimately for him, he just died himself because he was taking too much turret shots anyway, also wastes his flash, which is of course very unfortunate, but you still get Artemis ahead of Slayer. That is exactly what you want for the side of Cerberus. Just right now, 2 waves ahead for him. Also, all these assists he has picked up will be very detrimental. We see it in the gear. We see Slayer already struggling to finish his first item, which would also be the Gale Force. And Artemis already on his way with completed boots, goes towards the second item. And here we see in the replay the dive again. He even has the perfect weapons to even fend off a dive with the Crescendum and the Severum. But they just blow up Arde first. Then Artemis takes the hits and thinking the turret is done by the side of Fuquan. And did he just flash too late? I think he just should accept that he dies because he's too close to the turret when he retake the aggro and just shouldn't flash there basically.
Yeah, the flash was definitely never gonna work, but hey, whatever. You get a good result. In the end, it was worth your flash, even if you didn't actually have to use it. So far, this man on the screen, no-go, not really having much of an impact. Then he is playing Corki, so it's not a real strike against him. Still a lot of time left for him. I'm going to ask the question again because it's a similar situation. On paper, Team Flash has the better scaling. But are you confident scaling against Artemis's Jinx?
Not at all. I mean, we already saw last game. I think this time it's actually even more favor towards Cerberus compared to last game. It's not compared to Team Flash, compared to last game, because Orianna definitely on her own right has decent scaling. One good shockwave can solo decide the game at any point, basically. And Viego, compared to Shinjao, also not a bad champion at all. Here we see Gravitum. Maybe they just killed him out because he is tanky, but is he tanky enough?
I think they do. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, very tanky boy. Just needs to flash, which of course is unfortunate, but flash for ultimate is something you can somewhat live with, I would say. No important fight coming up in the next minutes. Next one would be maybe the Cloud Drake coming up in 3 minutes and then some. And even that one not too important for the side of Cerberus. They are going very far into this mid-game. Artemis already almost 2,000 gold. Almost the whole gold is on Artemis. Like Cerberus is 2k ahead and Artemis is 2k ahead. The rest is basically evening each other out.
Ooh, now there's a bit of trouble as Artemis bears down. He'll get that kill. He's now excited, but they've got to get Ikigai. They've got to get away from Ikigai, and they're not doing it successfully. Slater will pick up one, and Ron P has nowhere to go. He throws out a hook, and he's got a mate coming now. He dies, but now Fuquan takes over this Viego body. He breaks some hearts. He moves on forward, and he breaks a body as well.
And I think Fuk here is talking shit because he's absolutely performing on this Viego so far. I really like also how he uses the reset mechanic just now. He just turns into a failure, does some hits, then uses the Heartbreaker for the damage part of it, and then just uses his own Blade of the Wound King ability, which is the Q of Viego, the ranged attack, to just finish off the kill. And Fuqua this game definitely showing up, can keep up in farm, can get kill after kill, and this time he looks like the better jungler.
He does. He maybe someone showed him our server because we weren't being very nice to him. But let's have a look at how this one played out.
Yeah, here we see it again. Only good to see landing and Artemis get the kill into Adi here, but poor Artemis is in a position where he can just be collapsed by both Aphelios and the Lee Sin going onto him with the kick and the Sonic Wave, so he quickly falls because there's no protection for him. But with Fuquan arriving, they decide to turn it. Of course, 1OP dies in the skirmish, but with Fuquan getting 2 kills here, it's ultimately very rare for them. And with this 3-4-2 for Setup Servos yet again, and they are starting to snowball out of control here. 3k gold lead at 50 minutes is definitely nothing to laugh at. And as we addressed earlier, most of it is on towards the AD carry in Artemis, and bot lane difference being that insane is definitely a good prospect for them for the next team fights.
Yeah. Mid laner's not super involved in this game, Quincy.
No, it definitely isn't too eventful, I would say. I think usually Corki's like that, but I mean, on this other card, yet again, 20 CS down. This time, of course, it is a different player piloting the Corki. But Jane definitely making arguments for himself. I keep saying it. He's definitely playing a very good game. Very good first series in the VCS. If it's his first full series, it's even better for him to have such a strong start. And he just farms better than his opposition. Has a good trading pattern, and I want to see more of him in the team fights. If he just can also land some good shockwaves, because that is really where good Orianna players can show their skill.
For sure. I just think it's very funny that, these ADCs have been going back and forth. Missiles have been falling around them. They've been dodging landmines. And then you've just got the mid lane and it's just got the music going just as they're just farming it up. They're not doing anything. But speaking of mid laners, No-Go does have his package. This should be an easy second herald here for Flash. I don't think Cerberus want to contest this.
I think they won't.
I'm surprised as there's the package going straight in. No-Go doing well, but he does get absolutely owned by a shockwave. The first kill goes over to Artemis. This man is just too damn good. As Jane picks up a kill, they try and kite it out, but I thought the package would keep them back, but nothing keeps Cerberus away from what they want.
And Kevix, you thought that the package would have their back, and I think so did Team Flash. Unfortunately, there was just Fukwan with the Orianna ball on top of him. They could just shockwave him to death and just get the kill there. Artemis even again getting reset, so it's Turret plus Herald and also the Drake on top of that. It's like Christmas and birthday combined for the side of Cerberus, and with this again, they just can keep propelling the gold lead. And Flash is somewhat falling apart.
Yeah, I think they're getting ripped apart, if I'm totally honest, as this started with the battle of the hooks, and one was better than the other.
Yeah, hook lands, package comes out, the L shape is in, but he just he goes so deep into an area where he basically doesn't have any vision, and yeah, unluckily for him, there was a Viego lurking around and just used his blade to cut him down, and not a good showing for No-Go either way. He was already getting smashed in lane. Jane on his own court had a very good first showing. No-Go not so much. Of course, gotta say, No-Go doesn't have an easy time either, right? He just comes to replace Yoshino after that loss. Doesn't really have much support on this team, as in you would expect those teams to fare better than the opposition. So he basically has to be one of the carries and just fails to deliver so far. Doesn't mean that the player really has nothing to show for himself. But you see Fukwan, if the Viego gets CC Gent, he can just die. No,
yeah, it's true. He moves forward. He goes for the Heartbreak, but Marcus with a good dodge. He won't get the reset. This will just be a Viego sent back to the Shadow Isles. A big shutdown, freaky guy.
Very big shot indeed, and maybe we praised Fukwan also one time too much, because that was really just bad. I mean, he is a Viego. He also goes for the tanky build with the Divine Sunderer into Sterax on this patch, so he survives to some extent, but he just straight up walked into the hook there, and then just it looked really awkward how he just died there. It will not be very consequential, as there's not really Drake or Baron coming up in a few seconds, but he just wastes some time for potential good Herald placement and gives away a huge shutdown, which would definitely benefit the side of Team Flash, and just shows that while Cerberus looks a lot better than in week 1, they are still far from clean.
Yeah, it's true. There is some issues, to say the least, with their coordination. Fukwan definitely still has a lot of growing to do, but my compared to the team that played against Garm, it's night and day.
It's heaven and earth, I would say. So you could also put like some evaluation into that comparison. So
Sure.
yeah, it definitely looks a lot better. There's like no way around it. I don't think they can take this turret without the wave. They have the Herald for it, so it will be fine either way. And maybe even taking 2 turrets here, because the Herald charge number 2, it doesn't take plating money, but it does just keep a very unsoftened flow. But where's Team Flash on the map? They are just not defending or what? I don't know.
GG, like broken mental. I don't know. Rocket comes
Team
out
Flash
from
reminds me
Artemis.
of Cerberus week 1.
Yeah, a little bit. Ooh, Chain and Artemis
Graviton.
both caught by the Graviton, but there's no follow-up. This should be fine. The Herald actually got another charge as well. Flash definitely just kind of caught napping, they weren't even really between rotations. I don't know what they were doing. But it wasn't stopping the push. As Cerberus
I was doubting
continued to get
if
ahead.
Cerberus could take 1 tier 1 to it, is what I was doubting, and they almost took the whole lane. That's kind of how insanely lacking Team Flash defense was over there, and also maybe the Herald charge. Yeah, that being uncontested, it can still hurt a lot, even if it's the second Herald. It actually does more damage overall to the turret, just gives less gold unless you finish it. So here, the wave clear should come out for the side of Cerberus.
Ooh, Fook gets
And if
hooked.
they land the hook,
Oh, but they're just going to follow it up with a hook of their own as Ron OP goes diving into the backline. They want to try and get Artemis excited. They do it well. He now runs forward at the speed of sound. And Quincy, he's coming for him. Gets hit by a big J shock blast. Now they need to be careful. Ikigai goes surfing on in, just flashes out, doesn't even launch the kick. And Cerberus will have to settle for just the one.
just the one, and I think maybe Ikigai tried to bait some flashes out on his own, or maybe go for an insane insect play, but he has to waste his own flash in this regard. Also, Marco's having to flash there, and it's just hook landing to support on both sides, but the team with the damage is Cerberus so far, so it is, at the end of the day, Artemis will get excited yet again out of it. Cap also secured by the side of them, and they will be in a great position to go for this next Ocean Drake, and it will be soul point for the side of Cerberus if they manage to secure it, which means the flash yet again on the back foot. I do have to say, despite them getting kind of smashed around the map, they are only 4k gold down, and that is, considering what we have seen so far, not that high of a number.
And it's VCS. We had gone so long without a pause. We had gone so long without a pause. I was wondering why Rakan had just randomly started screaming. He could see it coming. He could sense the Sepia Rift. Hopefully this does get resolved soon enough. Obviously, we don't know what the issue is here in this unofficial fan stream. But if we find out, we'll let you know. And hopefully it's just a momentary disruption. Because Cerberus are looking very, very clean. Perhaps not back up to winter form, but a much better team than week one. And a team that maybe people had written off a little bit too soon.
Maybe a little bit more.
All good.
Yeah, we're back in. It was just Ikigai going for a quick pause and asking, I am supposed to have 4 teammates, where are they? And then the referee told him, they are indeed there, you just haven't noticed them yet. But here we are, back into the game. Was a quick one. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to see what the next Drake fight will be, or if Team Flash just says, which I think they should be, saying, let's just give it up and maybe fight for Soul, or maybe fight for a potential Elder flip later on. Ocean Soul, maybe something you can even somewhat afford to give up, because you either just one-shot the Jinx and the Oriana or the Viego anyway, or you just don't, and the Sustain doesn't really play that huge of a part, and maybe with Elder would be the more likely thing you could fight over, and not the Ocean Soul.
Move on from that. We're not going to talk about it. We all saw it, but never mind. As a teleport is being used, Cerberus, they want to fight over this Ocean Drake. They want to move up to Soul Point.
Package. Okay,
But they
fair
need to
enough.
do it
That
quickly.
package.
Can they actually get in time? Fuquan
can
is
see
here.
it.
Can't get the smite.
So actually, this was just Team Flash abusing their Corgi package timer, so Cerberus was respecting them a lot there, and they were on their own right, thinking maybe we don't have to lose a game over a single Drake. They are not Team Secret, so not really an option for them, and just them giving away this Drake. And now the package will at some point expire, and if there's not a skirmish happening now, then Cerberus can easily move towards the Baron and maybe threaten those objectives a little bit more. Vision control would be better for them. They are ahead, and without the package, Team Flash will be a lot less confident, and rightfully so, towards a potential Baron fight.
Certainly gives them a little bit more time as well to try and scale their Corki up. Still, no real impact in the game by No-Go. He didn't really do anything with the package in that last fight. It was merely the existence of it that did the job. He's only on one item at 23 minutes.
That also surprised me. It's kind of because of the Hex Drinker being like built in between, so it looks a bit less than it actually is. And also it's just 2 items against 1 and 2/3 items, so to say. So the lead between the mid-laners is not that insane, but definitely noticeable at this point. Another lead I want to, of course, address yet again is the bot lane difference. Artemis is a full item ahead of Slater, so even if he doesn't play better than Slater, he just subjects him to oblivion here, and Slater won't have an easy time. He basically needs the perfect weapon rotation on the failures to really have the same impact, maybe just needs to land a good Gravitum engage, or what he did last game with the Infernum ultimate, where he just was one-shotting almost the whole team from Cerberus. Maybe he needs something like this again. Maybe combine it with an empowered shot blast from Marcus, and they get a pick or two. It could be possible, because while Cerberus is ahead, they are still playing somewhat squishy champions, aside from maybe the Graves and to some extent the Viego and the Nautilus. So if you get 1 or 2 good picks, you could definitely still win fights on Team Flash, but you definitely need to play it perfectly.
Yeah, they really do. This is a game that's going to come down to execution for both teams, but particularly for Team Flash, as they are behind, as you very wisely point out. Fuquan moving forward, wants to get onto Slater, but we'll just move away. Doesn't end up pulling the trigger.
Now the wave setup looks a lot better for the side of Cerberus. They will have the bot lane being like somewhat equal. And now they have the vision control on the Baron as well. I think they could just at least start to attack the Baron and just look what will be the reaction from Team Flash. Will they even go close to it? Will they then just maybe turn for a fight, or will they just finish the Baron and just see what Team Flash's reaction is like? And I don't think that there's much stopping them from it. I mean, someone like Pos, someone like Fuquan and the Viego and the Graves, they could just easily start it and tank some damage up and even sustain back up on towards the Baron, because they have so much lifesteal in their kit, and it will not be that much of a trouble in taking that much damage from the Baron on their side. And if they happen to force a fight, it will just be very rough for the side of Team Flash. Otherwise, the poke starts to come in for the side of Team Flash. They have Corki and Jace. It doesn't look too bad if they get some free poke onto Cerberus.
Yeah, they got Fuquan live. He has to run over to his wolf camp to try and heal back up, which he will be able to do. But this does stop Cerberus from threatening them for now. Nogo is going to head back, probably completing the Ludens, if I had to guess. We don't have the scoreboard up at the moment, so I'm not too sure. Cerberus, I feel like they could have threatened the Baron start.
And I think in general they could just threaten more. I think this Drake giving it up was not necessary.
Sorry, we've got to cut you off as Ikigai has been caught. He's been shockwaved and the jungler's dead. Baron will join him soon.
That was a very clean pick by them. Just hook into ball delivery, shockwave, boom, he dead. And then, Smite is gone, you are behind, Baron is gone as well. And what I was about to say was Cerberus being a bit too slow with their lead. They were 5k gold ahead, they gave away that one Drake due to the package, and then basically did nothing with that. They got these turrets in the top lane because of Team Flash being a little bit sleepy. But when this pick up, they definitely are in a position where they can decisively control the game. The Baron will likely translate over towards these next Ocean Drake, which will spawn in 50 seconds, which means there's enough time to just take a reset, go back to your shop, get some items, and just maybe creep in some vision beforehand, and make sure that you aren't getting caught out by the side of Team Flash, who would be maybe waiting for you. And then this Ocean Drake should be Cerberus's to take.
We'll have to see. And so let's have a look at this pick.
Flash hook.
Flash, hook, ball, dead.
He's hit his mobile, but not mobile enough. If his flash is down, he already used the safeguard onto a ward beforehand, or I think onto an allied member, so he had that on cooldown as well. He is not that tanky to really survive all of that. He doesn't have mercs either way, so tenacity is not on him, and both Nautilus are not dealing a lot of magic damage to him, so he will die pretty quickly to that. So now Ocean Drake will be quickly done by Cerberus, and I really wonder how much more they take with this Baron, because they still have plenty of time. It is, I think, around 2 minutes they still have left on the Baron, and I want to see them threaten the base a little bit more, because they ultimately play to win this game. They are now in a position where they have a comfortable lead, and if they just now sit on this lead and sleep on it, they just give Corki and Jace Aphelios too much time to really scale back into it.
Yeah, for sure. They do pick up that Drake. They move up to Ocean Soul Point. They take another tower. And with this massive wave, the base integrity should be compromised. The hull is breached. And now the inhib is the next target. But there is a package locked and loaded. No go, mate. You got to justify yourself over the Yosh.
He does.
One day you'll have an impact.
And Ikigai also looking in the flank. And I mean, we shouldn't be too harsh on Nogo, right? It's his first game. I mean, Jane, of course, had a better one. Maybe I'm too nice.
The thing is, though, I'm not so much saying it in terms of he's making mistakes. I don't think he is, but Flash isn't playing to enable him. Like, play around your Corki. Like, this is a Corki at 30 minutes. You need to use him.
And also on a positive note, but you could just say, if Noku plays this out really well now, he makes good arguments over Yoshino, who just now had a really awful game. On the same champion even. Yeah. you could definitely frame it the other way around. If Noah just has a good game right now, lands some very good big ones, has a good package play, maybe even if he doesn't even need to beat Cerberus, but he just needs to have a good showing on this zone, and he could maybe be considered for the starting mid lane spot here. But so far, he just hasn't done that.
Yeah. He's been very, very passive. And honestly, Flash in general has been very passive. They've only got 4 kills in 29 minutes. This is a VCS game with 0.5 combined kills per minute. It's positively glacial, Crincy. I'm bored.
So am I. And 2 of those kills were the 2 for free skirmish against Cerberus in the top side. So even that was not even a beneficial proactive play by them. The only proactive play by them basically was like them catching out Fook 1 at this one bot lane skirmish. Here's a shockwave. Wow.
Finally, damage, action. Let me play by play. But the shockwave was used. It's just damage. They will be able to get back, no worries. Cerberus bringing in the 2-lane press though, Poss. Threatening
Poss
the now.
Poss just whittling down the turret slowly but surely, and Cerberus, I think they are just playing it super safe because they know they are about to have their first match win here. And Poss also even TPing to that. He's just 1 meter away basically, but he just goes for the TP. But second inhib now falling down, they can maybe even tank the tier 3 turret in the top lane now. But Poss will just dash over the wall, I think. And they play it slowly because no need to risk anything, right? They're about to have their first match win, and they really do not want to put any risk, even if they likely know they could play more aggressively.
The boot comes in from Ikigai, but it's only on Toronto P, who can dash in and get that kill. Never mind, too much shielding. It was all a bait, Princey. It was all a bait, and Ikigai is just a slippery little fish on Cerberus's hook. As that is a big kill being picked up onto Flash's jungler. All 3 inhibitors have been taken, and the dogs bite down hard as Cerberus avenge a pathetic Series 1, I should say, against Garm. They come back in week 2 and show that the Winter Kings are not dead yet. As they move on forward, Poss doing a lot of damage. It is going to be Jane picking up the kills, but now Artemis is excited. I'm excited, Crincy, as they siege down onto the Nexus and take it and secure the 2-0.
It was a bait, but it wasn't even a good bait. Ikigai really getting a bit too much praise after the first game. I almost want to say, but just speak about the positive things, right? Cerberus come back. Rumors of Cerberus' demise have been greatly exaggerated. They definitely can still win series. Them swapping up players means absolutely nothing in the greatest team of things, and they definitely have other players up their bench who can really perform. Looking at Poss on the Graves has looked pretty good, and also Jane in the mid lane. I mean, on Sundo against Corki, on Oriana against Corki, he smashed both mid laners, and definitely a good debut by him.
For sure. And we will go immediately to bring back in my favorite American. Rebel, welcome back. This is your desk, though. Off you go.
The highest of honors that could possibly be attained is being somebody's favorite American. I feel claimed.
I know a lot of Americans.
That's reasonable. I appreciate that very highly. Gentlemen, what a game that this was, because obviously, again, coming in, I think our expectations were a little bit... I think we were spread about, at least in terms of predictions and things. If I recall, actually having looked at the sheet, this was usually called as a 3 or 2-1 in one direction or the other, because people really just were not sure how this was going to play out. 2-0, pretty dominating from the side of Cerberus with their 2 new substitutions. Do you think that made the biggest of difference? I'm gonna ask that to start with. Do you think if they had been running Pun and Yato instead, that would have made a difference, or do you believe that it was truly the substitutions that got them over the hump against Team Flash here?
Do you want to take this one, Crinzy? I know my answer.
Then go first.
No, I don't think it really matters.
I thought you were just like, no, I'm not answering first.
I want to clarify, though. I don't think in terms of the players it made a difference. I think it might have made a huge difference in terms of mentality. I've been talking about how I think the team environment on Cerberus, there's every chance that it's just an absolute disaster. And maybe Yato and Pun are really feeling that, and that's where some of the issue is. However, yeah, I think Yato can play Oriana and Syndra, and yeah, I think Pun can play Graves. I really don't think these players came in and wowed us with like crazy pocket picks. Pun and Yato would have been fine, but the thing is currently you have 2 sets of data. You have Series 1, where, okay, yeah, that was against Garm, very different beast, but honestly, you can look at it and still say Cerberus played terribly. You got Series 2 against Flash, where these two players played great. The data says keep him in.
It's a very tough question for me, actually, because I think Yado and Pan did look awful in the first series, but it was Gam. And in this series, I mean, Jane played fine, Post played fine. They didn't show anything that out of the box, as Carrick said, though, because, I mean, playing Graves top lane is not like the pinnacle of mechanical brilliance, I dare say, and neither is playing Oriana Sundra into Corki. I mean, Jane did play very well. I think Yado on his A game, of course, can also do that, can maybe even do it even better, but is Yado on his A game? We just don't know. And with Pan, they both haven't really shown any arguments in their favor. And whether or not they should play next series is something that the coaching staff, of course, needs to decide. And that, of course, depends on whatever they play in practice.
It's also a matter of, I think this didn't really give us the greatest of kind of indicators as to how either of these two teams is, right? Because now you beat Team Flash, who beat Saigon, who beat Luxury, who beat I don't even remember who Luxury beat. Like we're through so many trains of thought here between every single person. The competitiveness from 2nd through 7th just feels ridiculous across the board, where anybody can be anybody, which is not a place that we enjoy being because it makes our jobs difficult as an analyst. Now, on the other half of this, I suppose, because we talked a little bit about Cerberus, who won this day. Flash obviously had complications. I still think bright spots are there. I think Game 1, Slater and Artie had their moments. I think Ikigai has been great for the team so far. And Marcus is holding things down in top lane. Mid lane clearly has problems. Where's the diagnosis? Do they need to try another iteration of this team where somehow Yoshino's in top, maybe Marcus is in mid, or you try no-go in mid lane with everything else? Or is there some fundamental reason why this team is continuing to fail? Do you expect this team to continue to free fall even after their victory in week 1?
I think that Yoshino could just learn more champions. I think that would already make a lot of difference, because Yoshino, he has proven time and time again on Wise in the mid lane, on countless champions in the top lane, that he has the mechanical prowess. He has a talent definitely for it. And I think if he just gets a bigger champion pool, it doesn't even need to be like an insane champion ocean like some other mid laners have. He just needs to have like 3-4 mid lane picks that he could always pick up and just not be terrible on and not get smacked on. And then I think mid lane would be stable. Ikigai looked okay. The bot lane, if it's not against Artemis and Volopi, I think will look good to very good against other matchups. And Marcus is not inting his ass off either. So I think with Yoshino picking up some slack, they are kind of fine. And I think benching him for no-go was maybe a bit of an overreaction.
Yeah, look, the thing with Yoshino is I'm pretty sure we've watched about 18 months of that man just being subjected to the most psychic damage I've seen a man take. He is a member of the VCS English community, so we get to see it live. Maybe there's some mental issues, like he just isn't coping after a loss. I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong. Because he's a great guy. He's a really nice dude. He's very funny. But no-go in game 2, he didn't play badly, but name a play no-go made. Do you remember any? Because I don't.
He didn't play good either.
Yeah, to be fair, I can remember one play Yoshino made in game 1, and it was packaging into 5 people and dying. So
no, did something similar at that one Herald. At the second Herald.
Well, true, he did actually. True. So they're even. They're really even.
Yeah.
I think putting the veteran in makes sense, but I agree with you. He needs to grow his champion pool, or if it's a situation where you ban Rise and then Yoshino's like, well, I'm screwed. It's like, okay, you can't play because everyone's just going to ban Rise. I'm head out. Like, just ban Rise. He needs a bigger champion pool. I agree.
It is a position where it feels like there's more to be had, I think, from this Flash squad. Figuring out mid lane is definitely perhaps the start to some of their problems. And what a day of games that it's been, because we get 2 very quick 2-0s definitively by 2 of our top teams from what was the winter split and coming into the spring split, where we're still just continuing to cluster up a bunch of teams in the middle of the pack with these 1-1 records. Hopefully after this week and next, we're going to get an opportunity to see some of them get cleaned up, as we've now ended up 2 games in for every single team. I don't know if we have a standings graphic by chance. I'm sure Spoods will whisper in my ear that he doesn't have anything like that, so that's perfectly fine. But tomorrow, we're going to have more opportunity to watch League of Legends. We're going to have more opportunity to potentially see what those standings look like and get some more clarity as to which teams we need to put our faith in and which teams we do not need to put our faith in. For today, obviously, I've been your host. I've been Rebel Fox. Alongside me on the desk and also casting, thank their voices and thank them between these two gentlemen beside me in Carrick's and in Quincy. Spoods, of course, in the production as well, doing his best and his darndest to make sure that this stream is just as memey and great as it always has been. Make sure to support us on all socials. You get those posted literally all over the place inside of the chat, so make sure to go click on some of those links. And we'll be back tomorrow with some more VCS action casted in pure English, the way that we have been doing for the last 1 million years, and we will be doing for the next 1 million years. Thank you so much.
Aren't we debuting VCS French?
No.